Today, we're going to discuss the power of index crediting. What does that mean? Index crediting, a more secure way to building your financial future. So we're going to dive into that method, how it works, at least go over some of the broad basics so that you could get some type of understanding. My belief is that you should have at least as part of your portfolio an index strategy, especially when it comes to retirement planning. So let's go ahead and dive in. So here's some of the uncertainty that most people are facing today when it comes to investing or managing their assets or even being in the market. Most people don't have the time, training, or temperament to manage their own brokerage accounts. In fact, most people are stressed out. They get their statements, and majority of them actually don't even open them. There's been many of times over the years where I've sat with so many people where I'm opening up their statement for the first time right in front of them. And why do you think that is? It's because they're nervous about it. They don't understand it. So they're confused. So most people are riding also the roller coaster. They're just moving up and down with the market. Have you ever noticed that when the market is up, majority of people are up? And when the market is going down or it's down, majority of people are also down. So people are passively investing. They're so busy with their careers, their family life, they really don't have an understanding about the market and how to manage their assets. And so they're just riding the roller coaster with their fingers crossed, hoping that they actually capture some positive returns. And especially when you think about when you're going into retirement, do you really want to be crossing your fingers, hoping that the market's on an upswing? Not even to mention when you're in retirement phase and you're withdrawing money from your retirement accounts, do you want to keep your fingers crossed, hoping that the market doesn't also adjust? I've also experienced that over the years where people lost some pretty big substantial amounts that affected them even during their retirement phase because they didn't know how to manage their assets. They were still invested very aggressively. So most people also don't feel that they're also saving enough money and have no idea where to invest or how much they need to get there and what would actually be the dollar amount that they need to go to retire. So they don't know their financial independence number. So these are the things that are on people's mind, or maybe they just kind of turn the cheek and hope that somehow there's this invisible safety net that's going to catch them. And that invisible net is not there. And guess who they think is going to catch them? They think the government is going to catch them. So I wouldn't depend on anybody when it comes to investing your money. There is no safety net. So you have to be able to depend on yourself. So let's go ahead and dive a little bit further. When opening up your brokerage statements, do many of you guys feel this way? Excited? Maybe you're super excited. Ooh, I got my statement. And, they come by, they're supposed to send them at least every 3 months. You should be receiving your statements, at least even digitally nowadays. But do you get excited and eager to open up your statement? Are you optimistic about it? Are you content? Or maybe you're confused, like most people, frustrated, nervous, maybe angry because you see little parentheses around your numbers, or you see the red numbers that that mean actual negatives, so you're losing money. Or maybe high fees, maybe you're pretty upset about that. Are you fearful? Do you feel out of control? And lastly, do you feel hopeless? And all this comes from, in my belief, lack of education. You don't really have a clear picture. You don't have a definite game plan, and definitely you don't have certainty because you have no idea if you're doing the right thing. And that's what most people are feeling because they're not being educated, or they just don't, again, have the time, training, or temperament to manage their own money. So here's a major roadblock that is really on the forefront of people's mind when it comes to investing and saving their money towards their future. And that is the fear of loss. It's volatility, riding the roller coaster, or you make an investment and all of a sudden you lose money. This fear is probably the largest one that people have is there some risk associated with this, and how bad or how big of a loss can I actually take? So very important. Volatility is a major factor or a major roadblock that could affect your money. So let me share with you some returns of the Standard & Poor's 500. This is from 1999 all the way to 2018. And there's some important things that I want you to consider or to look at as we're looking at these numbers, because the numbers don't lie. And these are actual real returns that have taken place. Imagine if you would have invested $100,000 in 1999, where you actually would be. But the thing that I want you to clearly look at is if you notice from 2000 to 2003, the market kept going down. This is when the dot-com bubble burst. And imagine for 3 years, you're going down, 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 down. Can you imagine if you were going to retire during that time? How confident would you feel? Or would you feel very secure? Everybody always says, hey, stay in the market, stay in the market. The market always goes up. But does it really? Does it really, stay in this ideal path of constant growth? No, here's the reality. Can you imagine, again, trying to retire during this time? Most people couldn't stomach this loss, so they actually pulled out. And it wasn't literally until 2007, if you took a trajectory of 2000 and 2007, that was really when you actually went back and recouped fully. In this illustration, it's a little tough to look to see that or to visualize it. But can you imagine 7 years? If you would have stepped consistent and stayed investing in the market, it took literally 7 years for you to recoup back where you started from. Not too great of an investment, right? You'd feel like, what am I doing here? And no one can promise you the future or could tell you that the past is going to reflect the future. But again, major loss there. Now, can you remember 2008 when people almost lost half their accounts? People had to push out retirement again. They couldn't retire. So a lot of uncertainty, a lot of insecurity, a lot of confusion, a lot of frustration. People literally, sadly to say, took their lives during this time. It was a pretty bad time financially for a lot of folks, especially people that were about to retire or lost businesses. Lost jobs. So it was a big setback for a lot of people that some people unfortunately found it very difficult to even try to recoup or get back up. In fact, some people never even recouped. And so the biggest thing that is affecting, one of the biggest things that are affecting your money is the losses, because the loss in time for you to, can you imagine you took your entire life investing for about, say, 30 years or 20 years, and all of a sudden overnight, boom, your money could just go like that? That's the risk that you have to stomach depending on how you're investing and how aggressive you are when you're in the market. Sadly to say, again, people are not being educated. They don't feel secure about it. They're just riding the roller coaster. Again, this happened 2015, 2018. You could look at those losses. So it moves more like, an EKG chart, up and down, up and down, up and down. So that's if you were invested in the market from 1999 to 2018 in the S&P 500. Now, here's a concept that I want to share with you, and it's the power in zero. What exactly is that? Can you imagine if you could get market-like returns but with none of the risk? Pretty interesting, right? Imagine being able to participate with only the positive returns but none of the negatives. Can you imagine if you went back to this chart and you just erased all those negatives? What would your money look like if you just erased and didn't participate with none of the negatives? Well, what's the catch? Well, there's none. This is called the index strategy method, right? The index crediting method. And there's various methods that are similar to that strategy, which is there's an annual point to point, there's a monthly point to point. There's very, different variations of it. I'm not going to dive into the technical or the details because every different company offers something very similar. But again, they exist. Depending on the crediting method you use, you participate only with the positives up to a certain point, right? But none of the negatives. So the catch is that if you're trying to find the catch is you're not going to get the home run, right? So don't think you're going to aim for the fences and get the total return, but you're going to get it up to a certain point. But when the market goes negative, like it did in 2008 or from 2000 to 2003 or even in 2018, you're not going to participate with that. You're going to get a zero. That's why the zero is the new hero, because you're locking in every single year your positive earnings, your positive returns. So here's an example of one, and I'm going to continue with this example of these caps or these ceilings, as we call them. They can vary every single year. The companies can adjust them depending on the volatility of the market. In this example, what I'm going to use, the floor is being zero. So that means that if the market went -2, -10, or -40 or 50, whatever negative, you won't participate. You'll just get a zero. You may not earn a return that year, but it's a whole lot better than losing any money. And then the cap, in this example, it's 12%. So if the S&P did say 20% or 30%, of course you're not going to get those 30 or 20%, but they'll give you 12. But I'm going to share with you how this, as part of your overall or part of your portfolio or one of your strategies, at least for the foundation to make sure that you securely get to retirement, how this would look like as being if you were involved in one of these strategies. So let's do a complete comparison. I think this would be fair. If you put in $100,000 in the S&P 500 and you were in the market, starting day one from say the year 2000, the red one, if you notice here, the red is being in the market. So you're riding the roller coaster. By the end of 2003, you're at $62,000. By the time 2008 happens, even though you went up when the market took a peak in 2007, you're at 153,928. You went down to 70,000 just like that, boom, that year. But at the end of this trajectory, by the time 2018, you're at 214,299. So it still looks like a great investment, right? You went from 100,000 to 214, which is awesome. But most people can't stomach that roller coaster. What if you didn't have that time or that horizon to be able to do that? So now let's look at the blue one. This is the index strategy where you only participate with the positives. If you notice here, when the 2000 and 2003, when the market was going down on the red one, the $100,000 didn't move. It stayed the same. It's kind of like a flat line, right? But then you only participated with the positives up to 12%. By the end of this, if you were doing a raise at the end of 2018, you look at the red one, it's 214,000 approximately. But now look at the blue line, which is the index annual point-to-point strategy, or the annual average. This is 378,541. Now, it's not rocket science. Which one would you choose? Which one would you choose? Now, would you agree that this should be a very important part of your financial strategy to help you get to a secure retirement? At least in my belief, this is pretty awesome. Yeah, you're not gonna aim for the fences. You're not gonna get that home run, but at least with more confidence, you're gonna actually be able to participate in a method like this that you don't have any negative effects when it comes to when the market goes down. So let's look at a table. For those of you that are a little bit more technical and you want to look at the numbers, I'm going to break it down for you. So again, initial investment of $100,000. You have an S&P 500 annual point-to-point, which is pretty much like an annual average. You have a cap of 12%, the floor of 0, and it's fully participating. 100% of your money that you put in is participating in that method. That's a very important thing. I'm not going to dive into that for today, but the participation rate is 100%. So let's look at 99. The market actually did awesome. It did 21%. You're not going to get the 21%, but guess what? You're going to get a 12%. So now you're at 112,000. In 2000, it went -9. You're not going to get the negative. You're going to get a 0, so you're still at 112. So notice from 2000 to 2002, the end of that, it went -11 in 2001, -22% in 2002. Yes, you don't participate. You get zeros. That's why 0 is the hero here. There's power in that. You're still at 112,000. But if you notice, 2003, boom, was an awesome year, 26, almost 27%. And you're probably, oh my gosh, I want to participate in all of that. Well, guess what? You don't get to participate in all of that because you don't have any other risk. You get 12%, and now you're at 125,000. You could go through this whole lineup. Look at 2008, -37%, you get 0. Notice that the 172,000 still stays the same. And then if we go all the way down to 2018, 2018 was -6.24%. You get 0, and now you're at 378,540 or 541 approximately. So again, looking at the red area, which all the negatives, you get 0. You don't participate. And yes, of course, when you get the high returns, but let's look at them. Like in 2003, there was a 26% return. 2006, there was a 15. That was a pretty high one. 2009, there was a 26, but you get the 12. 2010 was a 15. You get a 12. So I'm just kind of, I want you to look at the numbers. The numbers don't lie. This is actual real historicals, which is pretty powerful. The story is amazing. If you just, again, eliminate the negatives, you'd be way better off. So what money can be used to participate in this type of credit method? Well, any type of money. In fact, you could take an old 401k, a 403b, a 457, any type of retirement account. Obviously, you got to sit with the professional to see if it's qualified to be able to roll it over. So you could do a basic rollover. You could take an old IRA or even an IRA you have at your bank and move it over into one of these strategies, or Roth as well. Or even if you just have cash that you want to participate in one of these type of methods, you can actually do that. And the other type of money that can use this type of a strategy or participate in this type of a strategy is cash accumulation inside of a life contract. Obviously, it's got to be the right type of life contract or policy that allows you that opportunity. So any money, from retirement account money, from pensions to rolling over 401ks, to even just cash that you have in the bank, or taking a CD and then putting money into one of these type of strategies. So what I would suggest is meeting with a financial professional that's actually qualified, that can actually share with you the different types of strategies and the different companies that are available that can give you the best options. I believe that this should be a part of your portfolio that would give you more security and more confidence as you're building your nest egg towards your future. So get started today and set up an appointment so that you could participate in one of these crediting strategies. Hope you got value. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next one.